Ooh, scary! Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go to our local Regal Cinema Theater and we see a movie, and then we talk about it right after the movie from the parking lot from Matt's Xterra. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And tonight, on this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, we are reviewing a movie called The Turning.
Ooh, The Turning.
Yeah, spooky. This movie is a thriller / horror genre-ish film about a big old spooky house where an old housekeeper and 2 kids live.
Check. I'm checking off the list of stereotypical spookiness things. Big house, check. Some creepy kids, check. Old housekeeper, check. Continue.
Yep. And coming onto the scene is a young, attractive woman who is showing up to teach the little girl to be a live-in tutor of sorts.
Check. Young, attractive girl.
Right. And so she makes her way there and takes that position and learns that the house is big and old and creepy. And through a very slow series of events, she wonders if there might be something supernatural going on. Doors are slamming, weird faces in mirrors. Stuff happens. She gets freaked out. The kids pretend like nothing's really wrong. The housekeeper doesn't do anything. And that's your basic story. You get to the end of it and, have some kind of resolution. Or in this case, 2 resolutions.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I was going to have a hard time not talking about...
Right.
Okay, spoiler alert, this might be a somewhat spoiler review because it's ridiculous and it's hard to talk about this movie without... We will obviously not get into total specifics, but there's a glaring thing that happens in this movie that I feel like to even remotely review it, you have to at least acknowledge.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I don't think we have to spoil it. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there are 2 weird endings to this movie.
Yes.
So
it's a good summary, though. By the way.
Thanks. What'd you think?
Golly, Matt, I hated this movie. Now I like Little Women. Horror movies kind of are just not my thing. I'm not one of those people who really enjoys to see a horror movie. I've tried to broaden my horizons because of our podcast to make sure that we include, all genres of film. So I will be, again, first to admit, just like the other horror movie that we saw, The Grudge.
The Grudge, yes.
That this is not, I'm not the target audience for this because I already don't care. That being said, The Grudge was really bad, and this movie is pretty bad too. So it's hard for me because I have such a Hollywood crush on Mackenzie Davis, who's the main actress in this film. She was the new person in Terminator, the one we saw, and I was like, "You're doing good things, doing a Terminator movie was a good thing for you." And then this movie comes along, and I feel kind of personally attacked by her that she's threatening our relationship. So
things took a turn for you guys.
Yeah, it's a bad turn. I don't know if we can recover, but hopefully there's a future for us. So there's just nothing really special about this movie. There's nothing new. There's nothing that great about it. It's got really, in my opinion, weak jump scares, which, we live in a time where jump scares are all the rage. Like, they're really weak. They're not jumpy. I feel like I am pretty susceptible to a jump scare, and this just did not have it. The acting is fine. I'll give that a check for it. You know, like the creepy kids play pretty good. Creepy kids. It's got Finn Wolfhard in it, Mr. Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So they do a fine job. Mackenzie, as much as I am upset with her, she does a fine job. But we got to come to the real reason why I hate this movie is that it has 2 endings, which is just, it's bizarre. It's not, I don't know how you do 2 endings well. I don't know if you can do 2 endings well.
Well,
and we're not even talking like one ending is after the credits. It's like one ending plays out and then it time reboots to a certain point of the movie and then another ending plays out. And the second ending isn't really fleshed out. It just is thrown in there like without any kind of real consequences or anything. Like, and then the credits start rolling and you're left with this kind of like, what just happened? Like, I don't know what's happening. Someone is going to be on the internet talking about how it's such an artistic thing to do and wow, brave director, but I think they're full of crap. I think the director's full of crap or whoever decided to do this. It's off of a book. I don't know if this thing is in the book too, but it's it's just, it was really bad. And I mean, like, the movie didn't have a lot going for it to begin with. It was like pretty slow, pretty boring. Not really good jump scares, and you get this time reboot thing that is just blah. And it's like a nice, it's honestly like, to me it was a kick in the balls. Like I was already not enjoying myself, and then it was like, let's double down on this not enjoying yourself and add some physical pain to it.
Dad, let's try to keep it PG. Okay?
Sorry, kicking the gonads, is that PG? Kicking the boys. Can we make kicking anything PG? So that's kind of how I feel. I'm personally slighted by Mackenzie. Hopefully we have a future, but yeah, in general. Again, I try to answer this with every review I have. Should you go see this movie? Absolutely not. That's where I land on this one. If you're a horror fan, this isn't even, I don't even feel like this really fits for you. If you're a cinema nerd who gets high off of artistic expression in movies, maybe this can be for you.
If you have a podcast and you do reviews of a lot of movies, you might need to see this one because, you know, you've seen all the other ones already.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, I am an enjoyer of good horror films.
I don't think I knew that about you. This has been an enlightening. Well, I remember we have seen some horror movies together. We saw Halloween together.
Yes.
You're the only reason why I saw that movie is because you were like, let's see it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yes. I think we've seen all the Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah, you're the only reason I've seen those movies. That's for sure.
Well, so what I like about horror movies is there's a certain formula that's followed, and that's sort of what I was expecting here. Mm-hmm. I thought the turning maybe was going to refer to something like maybe with werewolves or vampires or something.
Sure.
Like someone is turning into like a creature or a beast or a demon or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm down for that.
Right.
And then during the opening credits, the book that it's based on is called The Turning of the Screw.
Yeah.
And that was when I knew I was in trouble. Is when I saw that. I was like, no one's turning into anything. This is like some psychological psycho thriller thing that is not going to be what I'm here for. So I was right about that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the movie really is slow. Like the build up to the point even where you start to see weird stuff happening and you're sure of it. Like there's some flashes earlier on, but to get to that point, it's just like, this was like dragging me over something rough. Mm-hmm. Something rough, Todd. Mm-hmm. Like burlap sacks. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like being dragged over burlap sacks. So, I didn't like that. And the ending is just, you brought it up. It's like, okay, we get this sort of wrap up ending, and like, okay, great. That was a fine place. Like, if you had stopped it there, I would have said, I didn't like the movie, but you went back to some sort of formula there and you
Right.
sort of finished it out the way I feel like a horror movie should end. And then time reboot, we just went back to like 3 scenes before and played it out a whole different way, which didn't make any sense. And
Yeah. Well, it's almost like they stopped filming that ending too. It's like it's really not complete. It's like the reboot, you get 1 scene after that, and then credits.
Right.
And then in the credits, there's stuff rolling, like there's stuff happening while the credits are going, which all make no sense.
Right.
And you're like, it's almost like they went for something, and then it was like they just gave up.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't know how you do 2 endings, but if you're gonna do it, do it. Just do it.
Right. And I think the way that, I don't know how you do it in a horror movie, but
Right.
Movies with multiple endings that I can think of that are successful is like the movie Clue.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the only one I can think of.
they successfully had like however many endings. Or like a movie where you're led to believe a certain thing happens, and then at the end of the movie you find out it doesn't, and then they go back and show like what really happened.
Sure.
Like, that's a way to do that formula well. This was not that way, and this was dumb. And my feeling on the movie is, if you like horror films, you won't like this.
Right. Yeah.
If you like psychological, am I going crazy or am I not? Are there really ghosts? You might be interested in this. But I would say overall, no one should see this movie.
Yeah.
So, that's where I land.
Gosh, Mackenzie. I have a great theory about this movie, what I thought was going to happen, that I'm going to share with you off air.
Okay.
If anyone wants to know, feel free to Facebook me, and
Right.
I will private message you what it was.
Excellent. I can't wait.
All right. How many dead koi fish would you give this movie?
Dead koi fish. I'd give it a solid 0.8 of a koi fish. I think there was a scene with 0.8 of a koi fish in it, out of 5. So not good. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about
Yeah,
you?
I think I'm like at a 0.6.
Yeah.
And that's really just because I don't feel like I want to completely... I don't feel... If I gave it below a 0.5 or below, I don't think Mackenzie Davis and I have a future.
Right.
So I'm not willing to jeopardize that for this movie.
You don't want to get a super low rating to get back to her.
Yeah. Yeah. So 0.6, and that's only because you're my crush.
Okay.
So,
So I give it higher, and she's not my crush. But
yeah. But you like these kind of movies.
I
so.
do. Not this one, though.
Yeah. Well, and I can get down on a psychological thriller, too.
Right.
So once it was kind of like that part of the movie, like, kind of showed, I was like, oh, okay, maybe. No.
No.
That hope went away real fast.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that wraps up this sad edition of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed The Turning. We gave it a collective average of 0.7 koi fish out of 5 koi fish.
Yeah.
It's not a good score. We don't really recommend this one. So.
And I know my dad wouldn't like this movie, so.
Right. The Dan Domer rating is going to be no-go.
No go. No go, Dan.
Yes. All right. So that wraps it up. Thanks for listening. Keep on listening. We like listeners.
And I'm sorry, Mackenzie. Da 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 da.
Da da da.
Da da da.
Da da da.